Credit card rewards feels confusing, right? Points, miles, rotating categories, transfer pattern rules that seem to change the second you finally try to understand them. And most people assume the complexity is just kind of happen. It's the nature of the beast. Too many credit cards are competing with each other. Explanations are so bad that you cannot understand. And old systems are stacked on top of the new system. But here's the thing. The complexity at this scale can be expensive for the banks because it increases their support costs. It drives higher number of complaints and it creates friction everywhere. So if the confusion has existed without a purpose, the bank should have already got rid of that long time ago. But the reality is the confusion and this complexity in the credit card program has survived for decades across every bank and every rewards program you can think of. So you've got to take a step back and ask a different question. What problem is this complexity actually solving? This video is not about earning more rewards. It's about why the confusion exists in the first place. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You see, most people think that the credit card rewards are benefits. You spend the money, you get something in return. The more you earn, the better the deal makes feel. Well, it makes sense in reality, on paper. But from that framing, a reasonable assumption follows. So if the rewards were real benefits, making them clear would be an obvious reason for the bank to win more customers for their program as well as for their credit card. But from this perspective, the complexity starts to feel really unnecessary. Sometimes it even feels suspicious. Why need to hide value behind these different rules? Why make rewards harder to understand than they really need to be? Well, the problem is the belief assumes the rewards can be simple, generous, and predictable all at the same time. The reality, they can't. See, the old model thinks rewards as the customer benefit. But the real model is rewards are nothing but pricing structure for the bank. So here's the constraint that breaks everything, and let's look at it. Banks, they cannot afford and offer reward that are simple, transparent, and high value and predictable all at the same time. Something has to give or the cost is going to just blow up for them. Because the rewards have real costs associated to them, cashback is going to cost cash points. Points are representing future obligation. That eventually has to be honored by the bank. And these costs don't arrive all at the same time. They show up over time across millions of customers under different behaviors and patterns. So simplicity is going to lock the cost all in one place. If the rewards are fixed and fully transparent, the bank is going to absorb all the cost and variability. The redemption is going to happen whenever the customer chooses and under whatever condition exists at that point of time. That's the reason the flexibility matters, because the redemption of these rewards is not even. Sometimes the customer is going to redeem very quickly. Sometimes they're going to wait for months or years or may not redeem at all. So from a systems perspective, this difference way more than any individual cases. The complexity allows the bank to manage the variation. Constantly redesigning the program is not required because of that complexity. So if you see it this way, complexity is not a deception. It's actually a cost control. So once you understand this constraint, the mechanics of how these credit card systems work starts to make a lot more sense. So let's start with one part of that system, which is the breakage. So not all rewards are redeemed at the same time. The balances are going to stay small. Redemption requires a threshold like gold, silver, and friction is going to delay the follow through of those rewards. And some people, they're going to completely forget about it even though they don't have rewards. Or some people, they're going to just close the credit card before they can redeem it. Like for example, if someone earns an $18 reward but needs $25 to redeem it, the $18 is just going to sit there forever. So from an outside, this looks like confusion. But from a systems perspective, it's a smooth costing. Unredeemed rewards is going to reduce the expenses without reducing the headline appeal of that particular credit card program. The next is the redemption value. So points are not really cash. The value changes based on pricing, availability, and the rules of the program. So from an accounting perspective, the rewards represent a liability to the bank, and changing the redemption's terms and conditions and the size reduces the liability. Each of this mechanism is small on its own, but at scale it starts to compound just like an interest rate. So 50,000 points might buy a flight today. Next year, it might only cover half of the flight or only work on certain dates because now you have to deal with the blackouts. Then there's a conditional value. So the advertised rewards, they depend on how, when, and where they're used. The value do exist, but only under certain conditions. So this makes it possible to promote one number publicly, which we see in the advertising, while realizing another in practice. The headline is obviously communicating the value, but the structure is the cost control. So the objective is not really to confuse people, but it's to control the cost. Now at this point of time, you're probably thinking, why not just make the rewards very simple for the consumers? Why not offer a clear, flat, predictable value that you and I can understand? Because the simple rewards are expensive for the bank. So if the rewards are fixed, the bank are going to lose the flexibility, and to compensate, they raise the fees or restrict the access. The higher fees reduces the adoption, and it lowers the number of transactions, which directly impacts the bank revenue. And the revenue matters because the rewards program depends on the scale. So the system is facing a trade-off. You can have a complex reward that supports broad participation, or a simple rewards that work for a narrow set of audiences. So the current design is choosing the scale. That doesn't make the reward generous. It actually makes sustainable over the period of time without having to unnecessarily go and change reward every now and then. So now we can talk about the consumer behavior, not as a cause, but actually as a consequence of the system. So the complexity, as we know, is slowing down the redemption. When the rewards are not used the right way, the costs get pushed into the future and actually it evaporates. So for example, if someone earned points and waits for a year to redeem them, or as a matter of fact, never really uses them, that delays the costs and makes it feel distant and abstract. Rewards and debt coexist comfortably because the experience is different. Rewards feel like conditional and future-oriented, whereas spending feels immediate and concrete. The system is not relying on irrationality. It actually relies on predictability, and at scale, these small frictions and delays, they add up. Because the system is not built for edge cases. It's built for averages. So what's the real misunderstanding? Credit card rewards are not benefit in a traditional sense. Their pricing tools. They help customer segments, they influence the behavior, and manage the cost across the portfolio. They're not designed to be clearly understood by any individual like you and I. They're designed to work reliably across millions of customers in different segments. Once you see that, the confusion stops being a mystery. It actually becomes a structural knowledge. So viewed from a system lens, the design choices really make sense. Complexity is protecting the flexibility. Flexibility is protecting the profitability of the bank, which in turn is sustaining the participation. That does not mean the rewards are completely useless. You need to stop using the rewards. It actually means is what they're not and what they appear to be. And this pattern is not just unique to credit cards. If financial products like airline rewards are unnecessarily complex, there's one useful question that you need to ask. What trade-off is this complexity managing? That question changes how the system looks. So provide your comments below. What trade-off is the complexity of your financial product managing right now?